Alrighty, we're back with your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly, and it is episode number 476. We're recording live on Tuesday, August the 4th. Brianna, how are you?
Doing pretty good, hanging in there. Nothing new to report here,
No? Well, my Blue Jays are in Atlanta today to play your
Okay.
Braves, so that's good.
That is good. Maybe I'll tune in later.
Yeah, although you now don't have your ace pitcher anymore. He's out, I guess, for
I
this season.
know.
I just heard. So yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to watch the baseball season and the games being canceled, and the caution, which is justified. But yeah, it's very interesting. And yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, we've got a good show for you. We've got no guests this week, but five interesting industry news stories for you across the board, covering a number of member companies and a number of interesting brands. So we'll just jump into it. And I'll let Aubriana kick it off with one of her favorite brands, I'm sure.
Oh yes, my closet is filled with Burberry. No, I don't think I own anything Burberry. I am not that posh. So Burberry has teamed up with Tencent, and this is interesting. So they're launching their first, what they're calling a social store in Shenzhen in the Bay Mixi development. And this is about 6,000 square feet, and they've got a lot of different things going on in there to really encourage social shopping, right?
Mhm.
So they have this interactive experience that they put together with Tencent's WeChat mini program, so customers can unlock exclusive content, and they can have these personalized experiences as they go into the store. So, they've designed digital technology within all of the different, spaces that they've created in this massive store. And so, what they want customers to do is obviously like share content on social media, and then based on that, they can bring these unique experiences to them. So all the stock in the store is labeled with QR codes. So you can scan them and you can kind of see, like, they're called product swing tags. You can get all the information on the product right there just by scanning the tag. They also have this platform where you can explore the store. You can book appointments, I guess, to come get like fitted for something. You can also reserve tables. They have a restaurant that's in there. It's called Thomas Cafe, which they're also using for a community space and can be used for private events, which is kind of cool. And then they have this like mini program where they're basically creating social currency. So, based upon how active you are or how often you visit, you can get like these characters to engage with others and get things like, rewards in the cafe or this is all through this exclusive partnership that they've done with Tencent, which is really interesting that they've done it exclusive, but I don't know who would actually, be competitive to a Tencent there. So, this is their, like, they're developing this social retail strategy with Tencent. And, this is kind of like their first step in the partnership and merging this social, digital, and physical retail space. So, it's interesting. What I always like is the idea of generating and creating organic content from your fans or consumers. I think that that's really powerful. And it's, when you create these engaging experiences, you're able to, in essence, really offset your marketing costs and fees because your consumers are doing that for you. Um, you know, to me, like, also the idea that this is a very high end brand, um, it warrants for maybe a more fancy experience like this. I'm not sure that this would work at, like, a Target, but it does work at some of the, like maybe a higher end, like a Saks Fifth Avenue or something that's more, drawn to a high demographic consumer that would be, able to spend this type of money. So I think this is interesting. I like to think about ways that you can pull concepts or ideas from things like this and make it available to a general public and engage them. And I think there's ways that, a Target could do something like this, right? Target does have Starbucks inside of them, and they do There's a lot of people that love Target and they want to go and like shop their home goods or their swimwear or their kids stuff. So, I think that there's things that you can pull from something with a really enormous budget and replicate them, at different scales. So I think this is interesting, and I think Shenzhen is like the perfect environment and the cultural fit for this type of a play. I'm not sure how this would work, in all locations, but it is interesting to see how they're rolling this in and partnering with other companies.
Yeah, I mean, so two things I like about this story. One is that sort of the use of QR codes to kind of drive the experience here. We've been talking a lot about that, obviously in China. This has been going on for a long time. WeChat, Pay, Alipay. People have been paying with QR over there for a long time. This is something that is been accelerated here in North America, brought on by COVID and the need for touch-free type of payments. But I like that this isn't a payment story. This is a story about how we're using the technology that's already in place, the social channels and platforms that are already in place to drive content experiences. And the nice thing about it is that they're sort of activating these content experiences in the physical world. So it's I think there's always that aspect for me when you talk about physical retail of how do you compete against online, right? Where price typically wins and all of that, right? And I think the best way you do that is by creating great experiential retail. Things and experiences that people can participate in and get involved in, to create content or to create some feeling or association for them that they can't just have online, because you can't do that online, right? You can only buy the thing online or see the range of products or what have you. So for me, that's what I really love about this, the experiential part of the retail of what they've created here. And I think using technologies in the social platforms, the QR codes that are well entrenched and already there, make a ton of sense to me. So that's what I'm excited about. I think it would work well for a brand like Burberry in this particular environment. And it's harder to translate this into sort of general retail like a Target, as you mentioned. But I don't think that's necessarily the goal here. I think there are elements of this, that every retailer should be doing. We've seen and we've talked on this show a lot in the last, year, especially the early part of this year, about a lot of the movements from Pinterest in kind of going into retail and creating experiences in bricks and mortar, that tie back to content or shopping the style on Pinterest, or creating those sort of bridges between offline and online, if you will, or social and bricks and mortar in this case. So I think this is very similar, and I think that it can have the same sort of power and effect, and at the same time create great content for them. So there you go. All right, on to our second story now. So there's a company that is out there called Voxel 51, VOXEL 51. And these are guys that have a platform for monitoring in-store activity and traffic, and measuring physical distancing. They've even created what they call a physical distancing index that uses video feeds and computer vision to model and reflect the amount of human activity in a particular location over time. So, very interesting stuff. Obviously, in COVID times, the need to help retailers, with whether it's mask compliance, like we do at ground level, or, social distancing, or any of these types of things, is really important right now, not just in retail, in any physical business where there's a location and people are coming to. What I like about this is that they're using the cameras, they're using the computer vision technology, not just to see what's going on in real time, but to model and predict and to sort of understand sort of traffic flow patterns over time periods. And they're not limiting this to the physical interior space as well. They envision a dashboard for retailers where they can see parking areas, individual aisles, or departments, and sort of break it down by sections. to do what they're doing, and so and kind of see those changes over time, and how that can affect everything from staffing levels to sales and things like that. So I think these are the types of technologies that are finding new opportunity, new life. We talked about payments. I just mentioned it, but we've talked about it just recently, a couple of shows ago, and how COVID has really driven some of these technologies into mainstream that were on the fringes. And I think you're seeing the same thing when it comes to video analytics as well. And so, I'm always intrigued to see new companies coming in this area. Of course, when you're talking about video analytics, there's privacy concerns to make sure that there's not facial recognition and those types of things, because we've seen a lot of companies, big companies, pull out of that. Amazon, IBM, and many others. So kind of making sure that it's in that sort of privacy compliant, anonymous framework, if you're doing this type of work, is super key. And it sounds like that's the approach that they're taking. So, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you have said. I thought the name was really interesting with Voxel 51. I wanted to know, is that like Area 51? I don't know. But I do agree with you on. I mean, sounds like it's very similar and kind of competitive to even what a Ground Level Insights is offering, and some of their implications right now, and how they're helping with social distancing, and just making sure that people are safe. And I also very much agree with the fact that privacy needs to be at the forefront with any of these technologies. How do we make sure that that this stays in the hands of the businesses, and that there is not facial recognition going into it, and that the data is safe and the video is safe and all of that information? Because I think it's, especially when you start to think about more sensitive locations that might tie you to certain things, whether that's health or just lifestyle choices, then it gets to be, it could be problematic, and it could be it could be a challenge. And so I think balancing those things along the lines of moving forward with this type of technology for good, it could be really beneficial. My only question is, from a long-term perspective, is this something that's going to be, honestly, the new normal moving forward? Is this what we're going to be adapting to, like, for here on out? I mean, I honestly hope not. But
I think
if
we
it
are.
does change.
I think we are. I mean,
Well, if it does,
yeah. I mean, even pre-COVID, if you look at a market like China, like masks were pretty much there, right?
yeah.
And these kinds of things, already as part of everyday life. And I think, it's just I don't see that going away here in North America anytime soon.
Maybe not. But if it does go away, I mean, I think there's a large enough percentage of people that don't really want to, for that to be the new normal.
Yeah.
What does the trajectory for companies like this that are focused in this space look like? Like, what are the opportunities? And I mean, as we've seen, there's lots of other opportunities where they can provide value and drive drive increased revenue and analytics and things like that for these businesses. So that's my only question, is what is the outlook for those longer term?
There you go. Well said. All right. On to some chicken.
All right. So food, because that's what I get. I get to tell food stories. And this is a fun one. What's really interesting is, this is a story about Popeyes. And I know that we talk a lot about Burger King and how they do, a ton of really exciting and interesting marketing. And they're very forward thinking and just creative and have a great sense of humor. And, Popeyes is kind of following suit, but they are sister companies in essence, because they are both owned by Restaurant Brands International, which
Yeah.
also owns Tim Hortons. So pretty interesting thing there. But, they've been promoting their national, it's like free delivery that they're promoting for their family meals. And so, like, a couple weeks ago, what they did is they started kind of tailing these pizza drivers whenever they were out for delivery. And and there's a video online that you can watch. It's pretty entertaining, where this guy, like, tails the pizza driver to his delivery, and then offers the family to swap their pizza for the Popeyes spicy chicken family meals. So he's like been kind of tailing this. So now on the back of that, they've launched this other campaign, kind of just layering on the craziness. And now they're encouraging their fans and consumers to borrow their family's phone, like when it's unlocked, you find it, and you replace the autocorrect word. Whenever the word pizza comes up, you autocorrect to Popeyes instead of pizza. So it's really funny. You can see these different exchanges between family members, like, "Hey, what do you think about pizza for dinner?" But what really is sent is, "Hey, what do you think about Popeyes instead of pizza for dinner?" And so, it's basically saying, like, when families are debating what to order, it's kind of hijacking those conversations. And then users can go on and post these screenshots of these conversations. We've seen tons of hysterical autocorrect conversations. At least I have. I love reading those. And you use the hashtag love that autocorrect, and you can post it on social media and get $5 off your next Popeyes family meal purchase. So they worked with the agency's called Gut Agency, GUT, to roll this out. I mean, it's fun, right? This is fun. It's catchy. I'm not sure like how many people are actually going to be doing this, but I mean, you could even obviously like talk to your family and just kind of fake one and get $5 off your family meal if you really wanted to. But I like the playfulness and the creativity here, and I think that in times like this, we need like lighthearted, fun marketing that is focused on your family. So I think this is a good campaign, and it's not anything like mind blowing. It's not necessarily using location or data necessarily to drive and increase sales, but it is definitely increasing awareness about their family meals, and it's good for a laugh. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, these guys, like the whole sort of restaurant brands, team, the Burger King stuff, like the creative agencies that these guys work with, they come up with incredibly fun things. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of this. I don't have a lot more to add to it than what you said, other than this totally happened in my family. Like my daughter loves Popeyes, and we have these conversations when it's we're ordering out night or whatever, like whether it's pizza or whatever it is, and I could totally see her going into my phone and changing the pizza to Popeyes or whatever. Like it's totally the kind of thing that would happen in my house, like without question. So yeah, so like love it. I think it's super smart and creative, and good on them for coming up with neat ways to do that. So yeah, awesome. All right, moving on to our fourth story now. So we're jumping over to the Philippines. And as kind of people get back to work and business and all of that, Foodpanda, which is a huge mobile food delivery service over there, has been doing a lot of buying billboards, digital out-of-home billboard space, and running programmatic campaigns. What's interesting is they're using traffic data and weather data to target what's displayed on the out-of-home displays. And so they're curating the messages based on the real-time data for the people that are going by. And so a good example of this is if it's a sunny day, for example, the data platform picks up on the warm weather, and then it shows, an ad for Halo ice cream, on the screen as people drive by. And if it's raining, you might get an ad for, comfort food items or something like that. In the pre-morning time, time of day based, you might see coffee ads running, to pick up your app and order your coffee or those types of things. So completely driving the creative, the ad content based on time of day and weather and, real data that's coming in into this. And, this isn't new. This has been going on for a long time. But I think what I like about it is that when you think about sort of coming out of the COVID lockdown and people starting to go back to work and driving again and passing billboards and all of that, I think you need to be super smart in capturing people when they are there, because they're not all there like they were before. And so I think sort of jumping on, understanding the variables that you have at your disposal and the content that you can then trigger based on that is a good if there's ever a time to do it, like now's the time to do it, right? Because you want to be able to maximize the traffic that's coming by those screens. And so I just think it's a super smart way to go about it. And I think especially too when you're looking at a service like Foodpanda, which is kind of driving the content behind this too, because we all know there's across the board, no matter which platform you're talking about, whether it's this or Uber Eats or DoorDash or what have you, um, everybody's using these platforms right now in COVID. So all the more reason to be on it. So
Yeah, I think, like you said, we've talked about this before. This type of data correlation makes sense. Everybody's got to eat, right? So, using the context of what's going on around those digital signs, I think it's just like a no-brainer, right? So I think that it's interesting because we always talk about the correlation between what you see or what you hear and what you want to eat, and I think that that's so true. So like more so in food than probably other industries, how our brain works, right? So I think that this makes complete sense. And like you said, what I like about this is that it's not, digital signage obviously has a location, but it's not necessarily tied to the location of the individual devices, which we know can be problematic, maybe moving forward for what the future looks like with that industry. And so leveraging more of the context of the location of the fixed billboard as well as what's going on around it, I think just is set up for success longer term. Which, if you don't have anything else to add on the story, is kind of a good segue to the next story and our final story that we have. Yeah?
yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Um,
So the final story we have is a partnership announcement that just came out today, I believe,
yep.
where Tapad and Reveal Mobile are partnering together. And these are two companies that we've talked about before on here. I know Reveal is a member company as well, right? So
Yep.
we've had a lot of interaction with them and seen them and how they've grown and changed and moved into different industries over the years. But this partnership is really about combining two different, features. So Tapad is really known more for its cross-device, like matching technology for advertising. And so they claim that they can know all the devices that are tied to specific households. And so they have this pixel-based attribution feature now with Reveal Mobile's called Visit Local program. So that's more of like the point of interest attribution. So there's lots of digital brands and agencies that are using Reveal Mobile for their location-based analytics, and now they're hoping that with this partnership, they can just really drive improved performance and optimizing their ad campaigns and messaging based upon location. So a good example that they gave, in the press release today was that if one member of the household is shopping, for maybe like food from the grocery store or clothes or something like that, that sometimes there's, I don't know, like we talked about, what do you want to do for dinner? Or what do you want to cook? Or what do you need from the store? There's those types of conversations going on within the household a lot of time. And now with this cross-device matching and also the point of interest attribution, you can have influence over the entire household versus just, one specific member. So this is, helping them expand their location-based services and, help them maximize the messaging through their advertising and hopefully the efficacy there as well. So my take on this is that this partnership makes complete sense to me. It's, a pretty natural progression, based on what both companies focus on. My question really is like, what is the future of this industry look like, right? We've talked about a lot of the challenges and changes that are broaching the ad tech industry right now. So we've got, you've got third-party cookies going away, and now you've got Apple making this announcement about really the deprecation of the IDFA and how that's going to impact the industry. If Google going to follow suit? I'm not sure. But my question is, will context move to the forefront, and will location be kind of an afterthought, you know? I think the challenge currently in location-based attribution is scale a lot of times, and being able to say, you know, when you really hone in on one specific location, the amount of devices that you can attribute to that audience can tend to be very small. You know, and that is across every provider. I think it's just the amount of data that's readily available tied to specific locations. You know, if you're looking at all of the consumers across an entire country that maybe visit a Popeyes or something, or competitive stores, then you can garner a larger audience. But I think that, you know, now with the way that the industry is moving, I am just wondering what's going to remain relevant at scale. And how will companies like this with these focuses pivot or iterate in order to maintain relevancy? And I think that they can do it, right? There's always ways forward. We've seen a lot of companies do that, and you know, just be innovative as they move forward. But it's going to be an interesting next few years, I feel like. So, what do you think?
For sure, it's going to be an interesting next few years. Like, there's no doubt about it, right? There's so many changes happening. Who knows where the privacy laws are going to go from where they are right now? Who knows what Google is going to do in, you know, following suit with Apple's IDFA, you know, announcements and things like that, right? But yeah, I think one of the you know, like sort of this idea of, you know, the cookieless environment, and, you know, how do you, as a marketer or an agency, you know, figure out, you know, how you identify the audience that you want to go after, I think is completely shifting. And I think that people are going to need to find new ways to do that. I know one of the things that, you know, we're really sensing, you know, in my ground level business right now is that, to your point, I think, you know, when you look at some POIs and some of the data that's available around POIs, there's just not a lot of, you know, traffic that you can see there because of just what's out there. And so what we're finding is the need to supplement that with, you know, first party sensor data that's, you know, actually coming from the actual traffic in the building and things like that to complement the mobile data. And I think it's going to be, you know, maybe that's not the right solution necessarily, but I think, you know, companies are going to have to find different ways to blend data sets together and match across devices and blend that with location and, you know, all sorts of other things that we don't even know yet, right? You know, could be camera data, it could be, you know, public, you know, GPS data, you know, from governments. It could be all kinds of different things that, you know, are not even available at the moment that could be in another year or two. So, yeah, I think the market is shifting. But, you know, I think in terms of these two companies, I think this is a good partnership between Reveal and Tapad. I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of, you know, where the industry immediately sort of needs to go in terms of trying to, you know, provide some way to fill gaps at the moment. And so I'll just leave it at that. It's by no means the only way to do that, but certainly, you know, a logical partnership to be formed between these two companies.
Yep.
So that's it. That's our show for this week. You've been listening to episode number 476 of Location Weekly. We thank you for your time. And if you have feedback, story ideas, please reach out to us. We're easily found on all the channels. If you're watching the video version of this, contact information is at the end. And of course, we'll be back next week with yet another show. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.